Hello there! I started this new sketchbook after finishing the one from my recent flip-through video. So instead of waiting half a decade to fill this up, I'll film a vlog whenever I have a good chunk of pages to share. With that said, say hello to Sketchbook. It's a thick boy. As is my tradition, I hand letter Sporky on my first page. I tried a simple brush letter this time to reflect how I don't have any fancy plans for this book. It's not the best brush lettering, but I got it out of the way. This blob of undigested noodle is a stream of consciousness illustration. It's a meditative exercise for drawing where I let my mind loose and start making marks because I felt like it. Proco has a video about it which I'll link if you want a guide for it. It helped introduce me into a state of mind that can draw something abstract. The next spread is full of basic line exercises. This is the type where I draw two dots, then connect them with a line. The goal is to keep it straight without missing the second dot. Some of these failed to do that. I'm supposed to ghost over them a few times before making the line. These are warm-ups that can be repeated anytime to encourage confident line strokes by being intentional with your mark making. The other side is a variant where I place dots all over to draw boxes, then crisscross between them. These are from Peter Hand's book, Dynamic Sketching Bible. These are basically copied from the first pages. It introduces these 5 shapes as primitive forms. The book is a great reference for drawing exercises. These are line exercises again, but it instructs to draw the line first, then trace over it for 8 times at most. It also suggests other types of lines to try, like curved or zigzagged. Another stream of consciousness, but with a brush pen this time. Drawing this series of 3 strokes adds volume on styles that rely on ink, so I incorporated those here to keep it fresh in my muscle memory. The next page has boxes drawn in perspective. After establishing the vanishing points, I ghosted lines to a random point in the middle until I created a 3D box. Mix of line and ellipse exercises. And random floating boxes. They're not following strict vanishing points, but this is a challenge of drawing overlaps and uncommon angles for boxes. More ellipses because I find these relaxing to do. The instructions don't ask for perfect circles in one go. I'm supposed to draw over the first line multiple times. That's not to say I can draw circles aimlessly. It's very important to set a goal and be intentional, like what any life coach would tell you. There are multiple ways to frame the ellipses, like this box, the changing scales, this funnel, or ellipses within an ellipse. These random shapes came from imagining the sphere as clay that can be pushed and pulled. Then by adding the center line and 3 or 5 contour lines, they would look more like 3D shapes. The next step would be to slice somewhere in the middle of those shapes and draw what could be inside them. They could have a lemon interior, machinery, or mushrooms. Form relationship exercises where I had to visualize how these primitive shapes overlap and where their contact points are. I went wilder with them on the next page, where I also visualized how a dominant shape is subtracted by a negative shape. The opposite page has repeats of previous exercises. Texture gradients. The gradient isn't just a simple darkest to lightest. They can also be depicted through size and spacing. Large shapes to small particulates, close to scattered. These are ideas for the first page of another new sketchbook. I have a series of sketchbooks called Whimsical Vomit where I draw whimsical environmental things. For my third book in that series, I intend to draw more magic farm ideas on it. So I doodled some magical iconography like the moon phases as the maiden, mother, and crone. Taking shameless inspiration from Stardew Valley's title screen, the lettering and iconography will be arranged on a sign shape. Some overlay ideas for my Plague Doctor Vtuber. This noodle idea is because my Vtuber name is Sporky, so they eat noodles with a spork. But I lean towards vintage newspaper designs to keep it simple but still thematic. The actual overlay is even more simple because I wanted as much space for the gameplay screen as possible. I tried contouring more complicated shapes. I won't be using these shapes for concept art, but again, this is an exercise on visualizing 3D shapes. I continued following Peter Hand's book for the texture application. It's pretty daunting because of the amount of details and the rules to follow. There's the contour lines, then adhering to lighting principles of highlight, core shadow, and bounce light, then applying the textures with rules set by the chosen texture gradient. More branding for my Vtuber. This is the idea for a logo revealed by ink. While I didn't use this end screen, just a simple sign that says the doctor is out. Then this is my avatar dressed up for the thumbnail of my Frostpunk videos. I'd like to avoid using pencil if I can, so I use a gray brush pen as an undersketch. I made some mistakes on this page, so I used this strip of post-it to cover them. I'm considering replacing my current Vtuber model with an actual human once I'm better at rigging with Live 2D. I referred to character designs from the game Helltaker to understand the appeal of a style that mixes anime and Western cartoon influences. The pink lines were done with a highlighter. If I had seen this page when I was younger, I would have been amazed about drawing straight with ink. But it's pages like these where all the line exercises pay off because I trained myself to be more certain with my line strokes. I ripped these hand studies from Helltaker art. And this is another stream of consciousness. I revolved this around a whimsical tree and surrounded it in organic details I typically use for environments. It was freeing to just draw fun shapes and details without being restricted by perspective or context. But for the next page, I did go, how would whimsical leaves work? Well, leaves can be first simplified as ribbons or domes before drawing in the leafy details like the stem and funky margins. That's the last page for now. So far, I've drawn dynamic sketching exercises in it. From what I understand, dynamic sketching is a foundational skill for analyzing how shapes form objects simple to complicated. These exercises can be repeated as warm-ups, so if you're out of art ideas, drawing simple lines and shapes can still help you improve. If you want to read up on the instructions, check out either Peter Hand's Dynamic Bible or for a free resource, drawbox.com. Thanks for watching. I noticed that my two popular videos thus far are my sketchbook tour and my bird shaman video. I'm worried that I'm double niching, which is unadvisable for new channels. I really wanted to show both traditional and digital art in my channel, so I'm planning an upload schedule that alternates between those two mediums. I hope you'll subscribe or stick around for that plan, and please give a like and comment to also show your support. Bye!